The workshop was cloaked in a muted symphony of ticking clocks, each one humming a steady, hypnotic rhythm that seemed to pulse with the very heartbeat of the city. Elian sat hunched over a cluttered bench, soot-smudged hands clasping a small, intricate gear that refused to turn. The soft glow of oil lamps cast long shadows across the worn wood and scattered blueprints, enveloping the room in a fragile warmth that barely held back the chill of the night outside. The weight of countless clocks around him was more than mechanical, it was a crushing burden of fate, a constant reminder of the curse binding the city and its people. He breathed deeply, the scent of oil and metal mingling with the faint, distant echo of the city's heartbeat, and let his thoughts drift into the tangled labyrinth of destiny and free will that had come to dominate his every waking moment. For so long, Elian had believed in the sanctity of the clocks, in the order and balance they promised. Yet now, with every anomaly he recorded and every secret he uncovered, that belief was unraveling. The threads of time were not as fixed as the elders had claimed, but neither were they wholly his to command. Somewhere between the relentless march of destiny and the flickering flame of choice, he had to find his place. The heavy silence was broken by the sudden creak of the workshop door swinging open. Mira stepped inside, her dark eyes sharp and restless, streaks of silver in her hair catching the lamplight as she moved with purposeful urgency. "Elian," she said, voice low but urgent, "you can't keep this all to yourself. The resistance needs to know where you stand." He looked up, meeting her gaze with a mixture of exhaustion and resolve. "I'm trying to understand it all first. If I act without certainty, I could doom us all." A flicker of frustration passed over Myra's face, quickly replaced by fierce loyalty. "Certainty is a luxury we don't have. Every moment we hesitate, the Chronok tightens his grip. We need your knowledge, your courage." Their conversation unfolded in bursts of tension and shared hope, words tempered by the harsh realities of their world. Myra's pragmatic clarity cut through his doubts like a blade, reminding him that the fight was no longer theoretical, it was now a matter of survival. Later, beneath the soaring arches of the ancient clockworks, Elian and Myra stood side by side, gazing up at the colossal gears that turned with a slow, inexorable rhythm. The cavernous space echoed with the grinding of metal and the hiss of steam, a cathedral of machinery that had long symbolized the city's fate. Yet now, it also stood as a testament to the chains they sought to break. "Look at them," Mira whispered, tracing a finger along the edge of a gear worn smooth by centuries of motion. "Each turn moves us forward, but it also holds us captive. If we can learn to control them, maybe we can change the course of everything." Elian nodded, the enormity of their task settling over him like a mantle. "It won't be easy, and it might cost us everything. But I can't turn back now." As twilight deepened, painting the stained glass windows with hues of amber and crimson, Elian retreated once more to the workshop. There, by the flickering light, he began to write a message to the rebel forces scattered throughout the city. His hand was steady, each stroke a declaration of his transformation from obedient apprentice to rebel leader. The words carried the weight of hope and defiance, a beacon for those who dared to dream of freedom. "To all who resist the chains of fate," he wrote, "the time to act is now. We stand on the edge of history, and though the path ahead is shrouded in uncertainty, we must choose to forge our own destiny." Outside, the city's heartbeat continued to echo, steady and unyielding. But within Elian's chest, a new rhythm took hold, a pulse of fierce determination that refused to be bound by the ticking of clocks or the decrees of gods. The threads of destiny were tangled, yes, but they were not beyond unraveling. And as Elian set down his pen, ready to face whatever came next, he knew that the true challenge was only beginning. The decree was pronounced at dawn, yet its echoes rippled through the city like a shockwave, reverberating in every alley, workshop, and home. The grand clock tower, a monument of brass and enchanted glass, stood as the heart of the city's timekeeping and control. From its pinnacle, the Chronoc's voice poured forth, carried on magical currents, casting his masked visage onto enchanted screens that flickered in every public square. The assembled crowd below was silent, the usual rhythm of the city's heartbeat stilled by the gravity of the announcement. By order of the Chronarch, the voice intoned, cold and unwavering. All unauthorized manipulation of time magic is hereby outlawed. Any act of dissent or rebellion against the established order shall be met with immediate and uncompromising punishment. The sanctity of our city's time must be preserved for the survival of all. A murmur rose among the citizens, a mingling of fear, shock, and simmering anger. The decree was not unexpected, yet its swiftness and severity chilled the populace. Clockwork sentinels, their metallic bodies gleaming with the light of 1,000 tiny gears, stepped from the shadows, their jointed limbs moving with eerie precision as they began increased patrols. Their glowing eyes scanned the streets for any sign of rebellion, their presence a constant reminder that the Chronarch's gaze was unblinking and relentless. Below, in a narrow side street near the workshop, Elian paced restlessly, his soot-smudged hands clenched into fists. Mira sat nearby, her fingers deftly adjusting a delicate mechanism on a small clockwork bird. The soft ticking of the device was a fragile comfort amid the growing tension. "They're tightening the noose," Elian said quietly, eyes dark with concern. "This decree, it's not just a warning. It's a declaration of war against anyone who questions their rule." Mira didn't look up. "We knew this was coming. The Chronarch isn't willing to let go of his grip without crushing every spark of resistance." Elian's gaze drifted to the faint glow of the city beyond the workshop window. The streets were unusually quiet. Windows shuttered hastily, faces turned away from the watchful sentinels. The city's heartbeat was faltering under the weight of fear. "What about Joran?" Elian asked. "He's always been loyal to the Chronarch, but I sense something's changed." "He walks a dangerous line," Mira replied, her voice low. "I've seen him hesitate during patrols, his eyes searching for something beyond orders. If he turns against the Chronarch, it could change everything or end badly for him." Meanwhile, on the city's outer edge, Joran led a squadron of clockwork sentinels through the winding streets. His face was set in a mask of duty, but behind his stern gaze, a storm brewed. The increasing brutality of the Chronarch's laws weighed heavily on him. Every encounter with the citizens, every whispered plea, every fearful glance gnawed at his conscience. As they passed a small square, a group of children played quietly, their laughter subdued but persistent. Joran's hand twitched near his weapon, torn between enforcing the decree and protecting the innocent. For a fleeting moment, the hard lines of his resolve softened, revealing a man caught between loyalty and empathy. Back in the heart of the city, the Chronarch watched from his chamber high above, the shifting gears of his armor reflecting the dim light. His mask of interlocking cogs concealed his expression, but his voice betrayed no wavering. To him, the decree was necessary, a brutal but essential measure, to preserve the delicate balance of time and order. Without the curse and its strict control, he believed, the city would collapse into chaos and ruin. The decree's effects were immediate and palpable. Citizens whispered furtively in darkened corners. Marketplaces thrummed with tension. and the resistance found itself forced deeper underground. Eliane and Myra spent long nights poring over ancient texts and tinkering with forbidden devices, seeking any advantage against the tightening grip of the Chronox regime. Yet despite the danger, a spark of defiance burned within the city's heart. The decree, meant to crush hope, instead galvanized those who yearned for freedom. Sylvan and other rebel leaders mobilized their followers, weaving networks of secrecy and resistance. Every act of rebellion, no matter how small, became a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. Eliane's thoughts often returned to the paradox of their struggle. To break free from the chains of destiny and control, they had to risk everything, including their lives. The Chronox decree was a reminder of the price they might pay, but also of the necessity to act. As the sun set and the city's clock faces glowed against the twilight, the stage was set for a confrontation that would shape the fate of all who lived beneath the endless ticking of the magical timepieces. The Chronox decree had declared war not just on rebellion, but on the very idea of freedom itself. And Eliane, once a curious apprentice, now stood at the forefront of that war, his resolve hardening like the interlocking gears of the city's greatest clocks. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but turning back was no longer an option. The ticking of the clocks grew louder, a relentless countdown to the inevitable clash between fate and free will. In the shadows, the resistance prepared, hearts pounding in sync with the city's mechanical heartbeat, ready to ignite the spark that might shatter centuries of control will be extinguished forever. The workshop was alive with its usual symphony of ticking clocks and the gentle hum of gears meshing in endless, precise dance. Yet today, the familiar sounds felt different to Eliana's, if the very air vibrated with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Myra, with her keen hands and unwavering focus, delicately held a small timepiece beneath a crystal lens she had meticulously crafted. The device was unlike any they had seen before, ancient, its brass casing etched with symbols that pulsed faintly with a soft blue light. Eliane leaned closer, his bright eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Are you sure this will work?" he asked, voice low. Mira's fingers twitched with excitement and caution. "If the legends are true, this timepiece holds memories fragments encoded in the very flow of its magic. We just need to coax them out." As the lens settled, a shimmer began to ripple within the glass. Slowly, images flickered to life, a stormy night engulfed in shadows, a flash of blue light as a great clock shattered, and fleeting glimpses of two figures, his parent Scott, in a moment of terror and resolve. Eliane's breath caught. These were the memories he had long sought, but never dared to imagine seeing. The room seemed to hold its breath as the scenes played out, each tick of the clocks outside punctuating the fragile visions. Myra's voice broke the silence, gentle but firm. "This is their story, Eliane, and it's more intertwined with the curse than we thought." Moved beyond words, Eliane felt the weight of years of unanswered questions settle upon him. The accident that had orphaned him was no mere tragedy, but a key to understanding the city's deepest mysteries. Later, in the shadowed recesses of the archives, Eliane traced the faded inscription on a brass plate he had uncovered in a forgotten chest. The words were worn but clear enough to reveal a chilling truth. The curse that bound the city was not simply a magical tether, but a deliberate pact forged with the mechanical gods, a price paid in blood and time. The cold draft of the ancient hall seemed to carry whispers voices of those lost to the relentless march of the clocks. Mira found him there, her expression grave but resolute. "We can't turn back now," she said quietly. "The more we know, the more we owe it to them, to your parents, to break these chains." Together, They ascended to the city's central clock tower. The great pendulum's rhythmic beat echoing like a heartbeat through the night. Myra's hands glowed faintly with the forbidden energy she had mastered, stabilizing the delicate projections of memory that floated between them. Golden light flickered over their faces, illuminating the resolve in Elian's eyes. But their moment of hope was shadowed by a sudden presence. Master Kaldor stepped into the doorway, his gaunt face drawn tight with worry. "Elian," he said, voice low but urgent, "some truths are dangerous. Delving too deeply may unravel more than memories. The balance of the city and our lives depends on what remains hidden." Elian met the older man's gaze, a storm of emotions swirling within him. "I need to know, Master. For them and for everyone." The weight of destiny pressed down, but beneath it flickered a spark of defiance, a promise that he would not be bound by the past or the cruel designs of fate. The echoes of lost time had awakened something in him, a fierce determination to face whatever lay ahead, no matter the cost. As the chapter drew to a close, the clocks continued their endless ticking. But for Elian, the sound was no longer just a rhythm of the city, it was a call to action, a summons to confront the shadows that had long held his world captive. And with every tick, the future grew ever closer, filled with peril, hope, and the promise of change. The ticking heart, the city's pulse was failing. For centuries, the steady rhythm of the central clock tower had been the unyielding heartbeat of the metropolis. Its magical mechanisms weaving a delicate web of time that bound every citizen's life. But now, that rhythm faltered. The hands jerked unevenly, the gears groaned beneath an unseen strain, and the air grew thick with the scent of overheated metal and ozone. Elian stood at the base of the tower, his soot-stained fingers clenched around the cold iron railing of the spiraling staircase. Beside him, Myra's eyes darted nervously upward, her usually confident demeanor shadowed by the growing dread they both felt. "It's not just a simple malfunction," she whispered, voice tight. "If that clock stops, time won't just pause, it might unravel entirely." Master Kaldor had warned them. The central clock was more than a mechanism. It was the nexus where the city's temporal magic converged. Without it, the entire city could be plunged into chaos, trapped in a suspended moment or torn apart by jagged fragments of time. "We don't have a choice," Elian said, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "We have to climb up there and fix it." The ascent was grueling. The staircase wound endlessly upward, narrowing as it rose into the spire. Every step echoed with the discordant ticking that now dominated the tower's soundscape. The rhythmic heartbeat had become a stuttering pulse, uneven and alarming. Reaching the clock chamber, Elian stepped into a cavernous space dominated by massive gears and rotating cogs, their surfaces etched with runes glowing faintly with fading magic. The air was thick with dust and the acrid smell of burning metal. Sparks flew from a friction-worn gear, casting flickering light across the chamber's vast interior. "Look at this," Myra said, pointing to a cracked gear rim that threatened to snap with every rotation. "If this breaks, the whole mechanism will seize." Elian nodded, already pulling tools from his satchel. His mind raced through the complex mechanics, recalling every lesson from Master Kaldor and every secret he'd uncovered in forbidden tomes. He set to work with practiced hands, adjusting levers, realigning cogs, and weaving subtle enchantments to reinforce the magic sustaining the clock's operation. Time seemed to slow as he worked, the chaotic ticking sharpening into a sharper, more urgent tempo. The magical energy that powered the clock flickered unpredictably, threatening to collapse entirely. Suddenly, the entire tower shuddered violently, dust cascading from the rafters. "Hold steady," Elian shouted, grabbing Mira's arm as the floor trembled beneath them. The mechanical heartbeat faltered, a sickening silence pressing down over the city below. Elian's breath hitched, but determination steeled his resolve. "We're not done yet. This clock is the city's soul, and I won't let it die on my watch." Hours passed like moments as Elian and Mira toiled, their movements a dance of precision and desperation. Elian's fingers bled from sharp edges. Mira's hands trembled from exhaustion, yet each adjustment brought the clock closer to stability. Finally, with a grinding groan and a burst of shimmering light, the great hands of the clock began to turn steadily once more. The rhythmic ticking returned, steady, sure, and strong, pulsing through the tower and out across the city. Below, the citizens paused in their daily routines, feeling the reassuring thrum of time's flow returning. A collective breath seemed to rise from the streets and alleys, a wave of relief that washed over the city's bones. Elian leaned against the cold stone wall, exhaustion and triumph mingling in his chest. "We did it," he murmured, voice hoarse but triumphant. Mira smiled weakly, her silver-streaked hair damp with sweat. "For now," she said. "But this was only a temporary fix. The clocks are strained. The curse is wearing them thin." Elian's gaze drifted to the massive mechanism, its gears now turning with renewed vigor. The city depended on this fragile heartbeat, yet he knew the truth beneath the surface. The curse that bound the clocks was a chain, invisible but unbreakable without a price. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city's rooftops, Elian's thoughts turned inward. The battle to save the city was only beginning. Time itself was both their ally and enemy, and the ticking heart of the city beat on, unaware of the storm looming just beyond the next hour. "We have to be ready," Elian whispered into the growing twilight. "Because whatever comes next, it will change everything." And with that, the central clock tower resumed its eternal vigil, a silent guardian of moments past and futures yet to be forged. The chamber beneath the central clock tower was suffused with a dim, haunting glow, the soft luminescence of countless gears, ticking in perfect, yet oppressive harmony. Elian's breath formed small clouds in the chilly air as he faced the towering figure of the chronarch, the mechanical god, shrouded in shifting plates of brass and steel, his face hidden behind a mask of interlocking cogs that seemed to turn with a life of their own, exuded an aura of absolute control. Every tick and whir resonated through the stone walls, a relentless heartbeat that echoed the city's fate. "Apprentice," the chronarch's voice was a metallic whisper, reverberating like the chime of a grand clock. "Your defiance has been noted. Yet, I offer you a choice, a truce, loyalty in exchange for safety, order in place of chaos." Elian's heart faltered. The words were seductive, promising respite from the ceaseless struggle, a pause from the relentless battle to unshackle the city from its ancient curse. But beneath the surface of that promise, he sensed the cold machinery of control, the invisible chains that bound them all. "Why should I trust you?" Elian's voice was steady despite the turmoil within. "Your curse enslaves us. How can safety exist under your rule?" The chronarch inclined his head slightly, the gears on his mask spinning slowly. "Without order, time unravels. Without the curse, chaos consumes the city. You seek freedom, but at what cost?" From the shadows, Mira emerged, her gaze fierce and unwavering. "Elian, don't listen. This is the same cage, wrapped in gilded chains. We fight for real freedom, not hollow promises." Elian looked to her, the weight of her loyalty grounding him even as doubt gnawed at his resolve. "But if we refuse, What then? The city could fall into ruin, and countless lives will be lost. Myra's eyes burned with defiance. Better to risk ruin than live as prisoners to fate. As the two stood locked in silent conflict, footsteps echoed from the corridor. Joran appeared, his stern figure framed by the flickering lamplight. His eyes, usually cold and unyielding, betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. This truce, Joran said quietly, may be the only chance to save what remains. But the Cronach's grip is ironclad. Beware the price of his mercy. Elian's mind raced. The rebellion's fragile hope teetered on the edge of this moment. He retreated to the solitude of his quarters, a narrow room cluttered with half-finished timepieces and the faint scent of oil and metal. The synchronized ticking of the clocks was a constant reminder time marched on, indifferent to human struggle. Before him lay the broken timepiece, the one linked to the accident that took his parents. He traced the delicate engravings with a trembling finger, feeling the weight of his past and the burden of the future. Was the Cronach's offer a genuine path to peace, or a trap to tighten the city's chains? Elian's thoughts spiraled into the night. The crossroads of fate lay before him, each path shrouded in shadows and uncertainty. To accept was to risk betrayal of everything he believed in. To refuse was to gamble on chaos and sacrifice. Outside, the city's heartbeat, the endless tick of its magical timepieces, pulsed relentlessly. Somewhere within that rhythm lay the answer, elusive and fragile as a whisper on the wind. As dawn's pale light filtered through the narrow window, Elian rose, resolve hardening in his eyes. The choice was his to make, and whichever path he took would reshape the destiny of the city and all who lived within its enchanted walls. With a deep breath, he stepped into the morning light, the weight of time itself pressing upon his shoulders, yet kindling a spark of hope that refused to be extinguished.